Yo, what's going on, you guys? I got a brand new buy or bust for you guys today. We're going to be talking about Redwing, the brand new Series 5 card that is coming out on Tuesday. We're going to give you guys 3 different decks, go over what Redwing does, show what he does with an animation. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Redwing, like I said, is the brand new Series 5 card coming out on Tuesday that did just get buffed in the OTA to a 3-4 from a 3-3 that has the ability, the first time, so the very first time and only the first time this moves, add a card from your hand to the old location which he was played at originally. That's pretty much what this is saying right here. You're going to see an animation on screen of how this actually looks in game. This card is very interesting. I don't know how I necessarily feel about it just yet. Of course, we'll let you guys know at the end of the video the final thoughts. But it's a very interesting card, brand new mechanic they're kind of adding to the game, being able to pull a card from your hand onto the board. Let's talk about some key synergies that go along with Redwing as well. So first and foremost, you do have to move this card in order to get its ability to proc. So Madam Web is a great enabler there. Of course, with Madam Web, if you play Redwing into Madam Web and then move Redwing, the card that is drawn from your hand or pulled from your hand lands in the Madam Web lane. So that does enable you to move that card that is pulled off your Madam Web lane as well, which is pretty good, especially if it is in another movement card or maybe a big card to dodge like a Shang-Chi. So just keep that in mind. Of course, Ghost Spider pulls Redwing to wherever Ghost Spider is, and wherever Redwing was before he is pulled or she is pulled, that is where the new card that from your hand goes. So just keep that in mind when you are pulling with Ghost Spider. It's not where Ghost Spider is, it's where Redwing was initially. Also, Iron Fist. Iron Fist moves, of course, Redwing to the left one location. So wherever you play Redwing, whenever it is moved from where you were originally played it, that is where the new card is going to land. So just keep that in mind if you are using more of your move enablers like a Ghost Spider and Iron Fist. Of course, Cloak also works with this as well because it's another move enabler there. Aranya, of course, moving the card to the right. So like, there's a couple different move cards that really do enable this. So just keeping that in mind, it's wherever it was originally played, not where it ends up. Next, of course, we do have counters to this card. Some of those counters do include Red Guardian. Red Guardian, of course, hitting your Redwing makes it so the ability does not work at all, you know, especially so like maybe layering your cards in such a way that it doesn't get hit by Red Guardian. Then your Redwing will make sure it can still continue to go off. Master Mold is going to be a counter for this card because this adds cards to your hand, which can offset your potential pulls from your hand when you move Redwing. Instead of maybe pulling the Infinite you're wanting to play because you're playing Dracula Dump, it may pull a Master Mold or pull a Sentinel instead, and then you also have another Sentinel in your hand again after that. So just keep that in mind. It's definitely a key counter there. And Debris. You know, board space, you're trying to have to move this card. Debris could make it so you can't actually add a card, or you can't even pull Redwing over to another location. This kind of clogs you out and makes it so you can't actually get value from the Redwing synergy or even the movement synergy. With that in mind, let's talk about the goods when it comes to this card. One of the main goods is it's a new card mechanic, you know, it's a new feature that we haven't had in the game before. You know, that's pretty cool, just having that new feature there. Next, of course, it is a 3 cost, so it's not the worst case scenario for Curve. 3 cost still is the most competitive category of snap cards because it is the biggest category of snap cards, but 3 cost isn't as bad as it being 4 cost. There's a lot of move enablers like we were talking about, whether it's a Madam Web, a Cloak, an Aranya, Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, the Grapple Arrow from Kate Bishop, the Nico spell to move to the right, Heimdall. Like, we have move enablers. There are move locations that can help this go off. And, you know, it adds a card to the board you don't have to play. It's just sitting in your hand. Of course, you can't necessarily target it the right way, but it is there. And then, of course, the bad is you do have to have a move enabler for this to work. If you can't move the card, the ability does not go off. So it's kind of just sits there if you don't move the card. And the card that gets pulled to, you know, the location you just played Redwing is random from your hand. It's not a targeted pull. Of course, if you have less cards in your hand, that does boost your likelihood of getting the pull you want instead. So, of course, that does help, but it's still random overall. It's a bad late draw. Like, if you don't have a move enabler, this card just either sits on the board or just stays in your hand itself because you don't have anything to do with it. And then, like I said, Red Guardian's still very popular. It just continues to be popular. It didn't get touched in the OTA at all, so you know it's still here. And then we look at the floor, the ceiling for this card. The ceiling is you get to play this out before or with a move enabler. It's a 3/4. You have the movement card as well, and it pulls a random card to the old location that Redwing was on. Just simple as that, you know. This card only goes off one time. You can't proc it multiple times, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at the move enablers and stuff too. And then on the low end, you draw this at the end of the game, or you can't move it. So it's just a 3/4 on the board. Just simple as that. It's just on the board. But let's go over 3 decks I've made for Redwing itself, which are going to be Soaring Movement over here. It's kind of a move bounce shell. It's pretty much the move bounce shell, but you have Redwing in here. The concept here is like you can actually Frigga later in the game opposed to earlier with either your Human Torch or your Dagger or your Vulture. You probably you don't have a Ranya in here, but you probably still keep a Ranya. You maybe take out Cloak for a Ranya, or if you don't have a Ranya, you run Cloak. It feels so clunky anyways. Like this card, Redwing overall, just feels like a clunky card. But the concept is you Frigga a card or you beast this, and then you can either move Redwing earlier or Redwing later with Heimdall, and you're able to get your Frigga card back onto the board, or maybe some of these other movement cards back onto the board itself before the other stuff happens. That's just the main general idea I had with this list. But moving on to the next list, we do have Flying Dumpies, which is just Dracula Dump. You have 2 different move enablers that are 1 cost with Iron Fist and Ghost Spider that do work with Black Swan. You also do have Heimdall that can give you a move for your Redwing as well. You also have Zero in this list too, if you wanted to, negate your Hydra Bob, or even just to have just another 1-drop on the board kind of thing. You have Red Hulk, you have Infinite, you want those to absorb with Dracula, and then you have Strong Guy if there's 1 or less cards in your hand. Strong Guy also gets the additional power, I believe +6. So that's just another list you could do, some just good old Dracula Dump. And then lastly, we have kind of a Wing Slam, which we're using Black Swan again. It's kind of a Hit Monkey Slam. You could potentially even just play as many cards out onto the board as possible, and then move Redwing at the very end to get Hit Monkey value, so that way you're playing out your maximum amount of cards you can play, and then you also get the Hit Monkey proc as well. Just kind of where my head went there. And you have Kate Bishop for token cards for Mockingbird, Mysterio's for token cards for Mockingbird. Mysterio counts as you playing 3 cards, which is a discount for Sasquatch. So there's a couple different ways you can run that way. I think probably Dump, like Dracula Dump, or maybe even something like a weird movement slam might be the better home for Redwing itself. I'm interested to see what Sizer makes, probably more with the bounce move kind of shell, but just this card overall is interesting, is what I'll say. Going on over to the Spotlight Week, we actually have a very interesting Spotlight Week. We have Redwing, we have Baron Zemo, and we have Loki, which is 3 Series 5 cards in Spotlights this week. I was hoping, and I mean really, really, really hoping, that Loki got buffed in this OTA, but Loki did not get buffed in this OTA, so this Spotlight Week is just very interesting. And when we talk about it, man, I'm not very sold on this week. I think Baron Zemo is a good card to have, especially if you enjoy playing Mill, and Mill's very popular right now. It's the first time he's been back in Spotlights since he was released. There was a bundle at one point where you could have gotten Baron Zemo, but this is the first time, like Blink, that he's back in Spotlights. I like the variant. I think the Loki variant is pretty cool. The Redwing variant is cool, but overall, I don't think Redwing is all that strong. I don't think Loki is really even remotely playable right now. You've cut him out of Arishem already. He just sits there now. And then Zemo is just really specific to Mill. And what he does in Mill is solid, thinning out people's, your opponent's deck so they can't get their draws. And, we're still facing some of these mid-range decks. So Baron Zemo is going to be better, especially into this Adam Warlock meta we're going to be into right now, which is Anti-Venom Adam Warlock or Agent Venom Adam Warlock, sorry. But overall, these variants are pretty good, but the cards themselves aren't really that flexible. I'm interested to see what people do with Redwing, but Loki is not really playable, and Zemo you just use in Mill. So I'm not super sold on this week. I would probably skip this week and wait for next week because I think next week is much better just for the new card overall. But with that in mind, let's talk some more about Redwing. So this is kind of what I've like seen from the community and stuff. Like, we're not really all super sold on this card. It's not super strong. Like, what it does is pretty cool because it's a new mechanic. It's not the most flexible card. Yeah, you do have to have a move enabler, so you have to kind of always plot that in to your list. Maybe it does get adjusted. I mean, I don't know. This card, I think, needs either some sort of adjustment. When it was data mined, it was a 1/2 on reveal. Like, it bounces back one of the 1-cost cards in your location and give it +2 power. So it was going to go well with Joaquim. And now with this ability, it just feels really funky. So, like, I'm in agreement with the community. I just think maybe it gets adjusted. I'm kind of maybe more sold on that. But this card overall, it just feels like a really feels bad. Someone will make a great deck for this card, and like that deck will work, and it'll be really cool in that sense. But I think it's a pass, guys. I think this card's a bust. I would not get this card. I would save your resources for Diamondback, or more importantly, save your resources for March and April. I believe those seasons are going to be much better. So it is definitely going to be just way better to just wait for those weeks instead. But with that in mind, of course, it is definitely smart to wait a few days after Redwing releases before you spend your resources. We also have a brand new game mode coming out the week after, so you maybe could potentially get Redwing from the brand new game mode instead with the Series 4, Series 5 stuff in the scroll shop, whatever. But I would probably just hold off, wait till the very end, or wait till the very last second. But I could be wrong. The community's wrong sometimes too. Like, just wait on it. I'm telling you guys, wait on this card. I would not open for this card. I'm not sold on this card at all. And sometimes they maybe work better than we're thinking. Sometimes they just don't work at all. So, like, I'm serious when I say, I know I'm beating, like, I'm a broken record right now, but, like, just wait. Be patient. You know, like, use your resources the way you want to use them. We still do not have an abundance of resources. At the time this goes out too, we'll have a better understanding, I believe, of what series drops are going to be dropping too. So you can prioritize cards in that sense, maybe instead. And, you know, bad cards do get buffed normally, and good cards do get nerfed. So keep that in mind. Maybe Redwing does get buffed at some point soon or in the future if you wanted to invest in the card. But I'd honestly say just don't go for it. But I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to be back on that Snap content grind. We already posted a new deck guide this past week with some Thunderbolt Ross, with some Sauron, which is going to be even better when Starbrand comes out later on. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys did stick around to the very end, I really appreciate it. Please feel free to like, comment down below what you would want Loki changed to, either a rework or maybe something like back to kind of where he was. But anywho, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, it's been real. God bless. And yeah, Tucker out.